Awesome. Cool. Just to introduce myself, my name is Thabelo, Netshivhugululu. Right, I'm a technical manager at Modena. Right, a bit of my background, studied architecture. Right, I've been in the industry since 2011. Right, just doing digital delivery from back in the days when we just used Revit to do architectural 3D models. Right, so it's been quite a journey, and it's quite exciting just going through and hearing everyone's opinion and struggles and wins in the industry. Right, and what I'm going to be presenting is what we do or what we offer to assist you guys at Modena. Right? Our methodology on going into assisting you into getting yourself set up to be able to deliver a digital project. Okay, it might be wordy, not a lot of pretty pictures and stuff, but we're just talking concept and showing you how you can get there, basically. Right, so we've been in the industry for over 25 years now, Warwick. Right, and just our footprint as an office, as a business, throughout South Africa, from Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, and Namibia, and recently Zambia as well, right? Mozambique as well, right? So we have quite a nice footprint in the southern side of Africa, right? And recently our projects have been going throughout the continent, right? So when I'm presenting now, I won't just talk on the South African perspective as well, because a lot of us do work in Middle East and in other African countries as well, right? We've got stuff in Ivory Coast, Kenya, some in Ghana. There's some stuff that might come up in Brazil. So that's what BIM does, that's what information does, and that's what technology does. It opens you up to be able to do work globally as well, right? Business, as we are, we're over 100 people currently, right? And a lot of them at AEC and infrastructure, right? I'm rushing through this because of time. And we've satisfied, we have 1,200. Warwick gives me this look, and it's almost Thursday. It's like, yeah. We have over 1,200 satisfied clients in our books, and day to day we work with around 5,000, over 5,000 different professionals. Right, and our approach as Modena really, I know Richard mentioned this previously, that's to focus on people, and our biggest focus is on you guys, right? And that focus is literally just looking at training and developing you to be able to deliver the project. Change management workshops. Change management is a big thing, right? People are scared of change. Even the young people that come from varsity. Warwick and I are working with a couple of universities. I can say it, right? UJ, TT, right? And what we've picked up in the industry, guys study, right? They come out of school as good civil engineers, architects, etc., but they can't fit into the digital workflows. Most of them get into firms and they don't know what ISO 19650 is, Amanda, right? But there's a kind of active services that we starting to offer the junior guys as well, right? Next thing is to look at your processes, right? I will talk about that a bit later. And then the technology really, once the people and the processes are set in place, using the technology should come easily, right? Yeah, and why are we here? Okay, I'm just gonna get into this, okay? And like I said, it's a bit wordy, right? But I will speak quickly, right? And yeah, I almost said something, but let me leave it, okay? Right, so when BIM came into our regions and into our industry, it came in with a lot of promises, right? And promises to highly impact how you work. Who remembers adopting Revit back in the days? They're like, oh, you don't have to do a floor plan, a section, a roof detail, everything is in one view. You'll improve your time by over 70%. Right, so that's the promise that BIM came with. And a lot of us, I must be honest, is from the software vendors. Right, sorry Warwick and the salespeople. Right, and people just pushing boxes to get you onto Revit, get you onto ACC, without really understanding what the process is behind it. Right, so it got us to a place where we had incomplete implementations. And we still see a lot of that in projects that we get involved in, where you have a professional team. First thing first, the client and the owner hasn't defined what they want from the asset that they're investing in, right? Immediately, the most frustrating thing in the world, where we get invited onto a project and get asked to produce a BIM execution plan. The whole process is broken, right? And for that to happen, we need to start off from the beginning with the owner and the client. Tell us exactly how the team must deliver the project, and then you can produce your BIM execution plans and start going into getting the work done, right? And yeah, so we have a lot of incomplete implementation till today. I know tomorrow you guys are going to get back to your offices and still carry on with your incomplete work, right? And the promise of BIM told us that we'll have coordinated teams, right? Fewer errors in your work, faster approvals, and ISO-aligned data, right? And the reality in Africa right now, we still have PDF-based workflows. Most frustrating thing ever. I'll tell you a story about that. Everyone is still working in silos, right? And there's still a lot of rework and inconsistent standards, right? Tell another inconsistent standard. I've got a BIM execution plan, right? And one of the standards there was a document from America somewhere trying to deliver a project here in Africa with South African QSs, et cetera, et cetera. So those kind of problems are still happening in the industry, right? And our adoption challenges, like I mentioned, it's mainly fragmented teams, right? And we see it day to day in projects when we get into construction projects. Structural engineers, architects still not working together. Engineering's the more best one, my favorite one. Fire engineers still giving out not even AutoCAD drawings, like hand drawings, et cetera, right? Try get a fire engineer. No hate. Sorry to the old guys. I hope there's no old fire engineer who's over 50, 60 to give you a Revit model on a project. It's the most difficult thing to do. So we have a lot of fragmented teams that we have in our industry and in Africa, right? I'm just talking South African context in this stage, right? We've got SENS 19650, but those are ISO standards converted for our environment. And thanks to the BIM community for doing a lot of that work as well. The biggest one for me is the skills and training gaps that we have, right? And it creates a big problem in adopting the software and adopting the process as well. And I want to mention it, just a low BIM maturity. How much time do I have, Warwick?
20 minutes.
Cool. Right. So I looked at when this concept of ISO 19650 came through, right? And when I did my research, it started like around 2 decades ago, right, where we started talking about information management and processes, et cetera, et cetera. And to be honestly correct, only like about 3-4 years ago in South Africa, where we started adopting the whole idea of actually sitting back, planning a project, and then implementing the project, right? And I won't repeat myself here. There's a lot of fragmented stuff. There's a lot of silos. We don't really talk together. We're not financed enough to adopt the processes as well. Right? So there are a lot of things that we've been talking about throughout the day as well. So I don't want to repeat myself here. And we looked at, I looked at this, and in most of our projects that we've encountered, there's always rework and delays. Around 15 to 25% of our projects that we work on, there is always significant project delays, and due to, once again, not following the correct process, right? And clashes, right? I think, Richard, you mentioned this. Like, you're probably wasting your money or the client's money if you don't coordinate your projects properly, right? So we're doing a project for one of our clients in Malawi, right? And during construction, the coordinator had forgotten to flag penetration on a roof of a hotel somewhere, right? The guys are already installing the ducting, but to fix all that stuff, it cost the client around 1.8 million rand just to re-coordinate the ducting and get the penetration done on the slab again. So it's just costly stuff like that, right? And there's also a big missed opportunity when it comes to life cycle management of your asset lifestyle. Right, so this is my idea, or idea Modena, right? So we need to leapfrog BIM. What I mean by that, it started 20 years ago. We need to step ahead of the whole process, quickly adopt it, right? And the strategy for me, leverage Africa's unique position to adopt modern digital delivery practices, avoid legacy system delays. And what I mean by that, I'll give an example. So we've got a platform called Plannerly, right? And it's a CDE of some sort. And the way Plannerly is set up, it's set up with templates from OIR documents, EIR, AIR documents for your clients, BIM execution plans, all the way over to handover, right? Everything is in the cloud. Now, to implement the solution in Africa, I'll use South Africa specifically, we still have clients asking for PDF outputs from this platform, right? And so we need to get ahead from that legacy way of thinking, right? Or working in a BIM environment using ArchiCAD, Revit, or whatever it is. I know it's an Autodesk event, but using whatever BIM software you're using and still exporting it out to PDF, right? So you can mark it up with your fancy pen on your iPad, right? So those are legacy workflows that we still have in our heads just to deliver our work. So we need to start moving away from that and adopting the technology that we have. A lot of the work that we do, we align your office with ISO 19650. Modena is the only company currently, I think, and Zutari as well, that can do ISO 19650 audits, right? Yeah, Rich? You guys can audit the 19650, eh? Not yet? Oh, okay, cool. So we're the only one. Right, so we can get you ready and obviously get an external person to audit you, right? We're just gonna save time. So we look at roles as, we capitalize on your roles in your department, show you how to set up your offices as well. I'll talk about that in a moment. And we help you with setting up your cloud collaboration, data-driven decisions, like Richard mentioned earlier as well, and benchmarking with other BIM models. Right, so it's very wordy. Are you guys still following? Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. So the importance of BIM and digital delivery for our industry, BIM is a cornerstone of project execution, like what we've been saying the whole day, right? And without us structuring our data, we can't really deliver a digital project, right? So these are the priorities that we look at when we engage with you as our clients and our customers, right? And you guys need to know, as you know, digital delivery improves efficiency, and collaboration is enhanced through BIM, and BIM's potential in Africa is, BIM has great potential in Africa as well, right? I just want to get ahead to the standards that we do, right? The way we align your standards, we're obviously looking at our SANS 19650 standards that have been published with the SABS, right? And obviously with support from industry. I'm gonna just get ahead. I'm repeating myself, so I'm gonna leave a lot of it, okay? Right, so Modena's pioneering role in BIM standards in South Africa, firstly is obviously we being the lead assessor of 19650 in South Africa, right? And we've done a lot of work in BIM as well, right? We've got a specific structured 8-step workflow that I'll show you in a moment, right, that assists you guys in getting your companies ready as well, right? And yeah, it's a lot of BIM, eh? Right, and another thing that we look at is just enhancing project information management, and obviously that helps driving transformation in the continent, right? I will talk about how we help you enhance your project information in your offices, right? Okay, so quick wins in BIM implementation, right? A lot of times we get involved. We had another client recently, I won't mention the client's name, right? And they just want a big project, okay? A few billions, okay? And in the project, the client requested BIM, right? Client came back to us in the office, and they're like, guys, we want to buy BIM. How much can you sell BIM to us? Okay. So one of those things, right? And so in a scenario like that, what we would do is Modena, come in, we'll sit down, we'll identify a pilot project, right? Start from the beginning, like what I said in the first slide. Look at the people, look at how ready your team is to deliver BIM, right? So we assess your current position in your company, and then deliver or put together workshops and solutions to help you to get to the right place for you to meet the client's expectations, okay? Right? And the best way to do this, you can't just come in and say, I want to go from, I also hate this, 3D to 7D immediately. You have to grab stuff from that pilot project, see what are the low-hanging fruits from that project. We start working on that and then build up to a place where you can get to whatever, if there's a requirement for 7D, where you can start delivering 7D. Instead of using 7D, if you needed to deliver an asset information model on that project, we need to get you started from the beginning. You need to know how to set up, how to work on the files, how to communicate with your client, etc., to a point where you can actually deliver your asset information model, right? Okay, so that specific use cases that we look at. The biggest thing as well, document the areas that you're not doing well in, and then also document the successes that you have during the duration of the project. The idea that we have at Modena, we don't want to hold your hand the whole time. We want to help you get set up and then walk away. That's success for us, right? But to do that, you need to be able to track and report and learn from your findings as we work on a project, right? Another big focus that we have is focusing on your outcomes. I'm not going to read all that stuff right there, right? But before you get started off on a project, right, a client will give you the EIR, right? You look at it, and then you'll put together your BIM execution plan. In the BIM execution plan, you're just basically defining the outcomes the client has, right? What the client requires from this project at handover, right? What we would do, you would have different outcomes as a business to develop your team to be able to deliver projects digitally at a consistent stage, right? So we'll help you deliver those outcomes and all our implementations to avoid that incomplete implementation or incomplete project. You have to start off knowing exactly what outcome you want to achieve at the end of the project. Make sense? Cool? Right? And what's also very important for us, right, is to educate clients on BIM benefits, okay? We're still working with leading architectural firms. They still have clients in South Africa, or owners or developers, that don't know their BIM benefits. A good example of a good owner or client is what Jacques was talking about a bit earlier, right? And because they're developers and owners of their assets, right, they're able to properly define the expectations and requirements or outcomes for their project. And then when they appoint the professional team knows exactly what they need to do, right? We've had a scenario, without bragging, and in one of those projects where each consultant had a representative from Modena assisting them in delivering their project digitally, right? It is that Santengate project. Right? So we had someone from Avcon, someone from the architect, electrical, etc. We had the fire engineer delivering hand-drawn documents. He had to do a fire escape plan and submit to council. In the meeting, I'll never forget this. This was last year, like a few months ago. He took out a red marker, drew in the fire escape line, right? And they submitted that to council. It still got approved, right? Right, but eventually they jumped onto ACC, and they're probably in their 70s. They have bought Revit, jumped onto ACC, and started setting up their business to partake in the project as well, right? Right. So to get there, right, you need to invest in training and skill development, right? And you need to start developing BIM professionals, right? The most frustrating thing when you're hiring young people now, everyone has been a BIM coordinator or a BIM manager, right? But with those people first, you need to make sure there's a training plan internally in your business as well, right? Make sure you encourage continuous learning, right? I spoke to you about university of collaboration, right? And also just help your team to enhance their skills daily, right? And this helps you plan better for future projects and win more projects as well, right? Modena does assist, obviously, with this as well, as you guys know. Okay, what I wanted to show you here, I don't know if you guys have seen this, right? These are the roles that we have in the BIM industry now, okay? And I'll show you how that fits in your structure, right? So you typically have, if you look at the bottom here, right, I'll do this. All these people, doesn't matter who it is, they'll need to have field experience, right? The worst thing is bringing in a BIM modeler who's never been on site, right? So everyone needs to have that basic modeling, collaborative processes, and know of all the different stages of BIM, right? Now, when you look at the first entry level, it's like plus 1 year experience. That person's a BIM author. We normally call them BIM modelers. Sometimes you fit them into your drafting space, right? And they do all the drafting work, right? They basically produce the information. Next to that, you then have a BIM specialist. this person would specialize in producing processes. Okay, so they look at what information needs to be given and then how to fit it all together. Right? Then from there you'll have a BIM coordinator who's more of like a management operational role, right? And this person here will be coordinating the information in the project, right? A BIM coordinator is not that person that goes in and finds the red and green items and just clicks on it, right? It's a little bit more than that. They need to coordinate information on the projects, communicate with the industry, coordinate consultants, etc., right? And then from there, you'll then have a BIM manager who puts together the strategy for your business, right? This person would sit with you as a C-level person in your business. You'll understand exactly what you want to achieve when it comes to BIM, and then they'll communicate it to the rest of the business. They don't just manage these three people. A BIM manager will probably handle your entire office as well. Okay, so that's quite a senior role in there, and they're also responsible for implementation. So just quickly, just doesn't have to be like that, just an organogram, right? So a typical organizational chart, you'll find that there's CEOs, CFOs, etc., and then you'll have your different disciplines, and then they'll just have a BIM coordinator, and then on the side, you'd have all your digital delivery department, right? I don't really like this because most of these guys are outside of the project, right? I want to pick on Richard again because he's still here. He's just sitting here. There's a project that we're working on. I won't name the project, right? But I was quite impressed by their BIM managers and BIM coordinators on inception of the project, on the BIM kickoff part of the project. The BIM manager knows exactly what the design intent is on that project, where it is, what information is required, what the strategy is, etc., etc. Not the engineer, not the architect, right? So I was quite impressed by that because they're quite involved in the project, and they were not just there to tell people to install Revit, update your Autodesk desktop connector, you're using the wrong software, right? They were involved in the project, right? So all this here, if we could remove BIM, it's just digital delivery manager, digital delivery coordinator, digital delivery, etc., right? So just think of it like that. In an architectural firm, typically you'd have a setup like that. Instead of a BIM coordinator, output in like a BIM manager, and then a coordinator, and then a modeling team, right? In your civil space, right? You typically, such a weird industry, right? You have a director, BIM coordinator, or BIM manager, the lead engineers that have the engineering team below them, and then they'll also then have BIM technicians. Okay, so typically that's what we find, right? And then obviously the mechanical team is quite similar. Now I'm showing that because companies get involved in BIM projects or projects where they need to deliver a digital asset, but they're not equipped. You'll have 3 architects have never delivered a BIM project at all, right? And they want to do this. I'll tell a story. No names, once again. It's a interior design company. They received a project from the Middle East, right? Probably like 80, 90 stories, okay? Right? And the guys in the Middle East are brutal. Okay, if you've ever done a project in the Middle East, you understand. When they put together that documentation, there's a lot of information required. It is detailed to the T, all the way to the milestones of when you need to deliver stuff. These guys accepted the project, got the design brief, started designing, right? And when submission needed to happen, they had forgotten that they needed to update COVID data, right? It took them about like 5 weeks to redo all the work, go back, redo all the work, miss deadlines, and once you miss deadlines in the Middle East, you get penalties like crazy, right? So they accepted a BIM project without structuring their business to deliver that as well. Right, makes sense? I just want to show just quick examples, just not be too wordy, right? So there's a project that we're doing in one of the countries in Africa, right? And in this project, we probably have around 300 people, and a lot of consultants, et cetera, right? And the client is on ACC as well, right? We're just making use, we do make use of other dashboards like Power BI, et cetera, but just very simply, I also don't like complicating things. If the client needs to see any information that's happening on the project, they can jump onto their insights page, keep track of issues. I'm just gonna jump forward here, right? They can look at model updates. I just wanna show you this. Right, so, and the client does this weekly, right? And it's quite a crazy client. So they're able to just jump on, because of the data being structured properly in the project, right? They're able to just jump on, see which consultant is behind on issues, RFIs, design issues. We're still on design phase on this project, right? And they can actually keep track of their project, high level. Sometimes as an owner, they just want to see what is happening. Is something happening? Instead of waiting for a submission date. So in this project, we've intentionally kept the client on board, and everything is transparent as well, right? To get to this, we needed to do that whole process I told you about, get everybody onboarded, make sure they're structured correctly internally, and they're equipped correctly to deliver the project, okay? Chasing time here. The specific project is a South African one. It was handed over, right? It's like around 85,000 square meters, right? But when we got into this, they still had a whole lot of issues and clashes and stuff, right? I'll just quickly show you. This project had around, I think it was around 75 different models, okay? But during design phase and construction, we managed to get the project down to like 0 clashes in certain areas, not everywhere, okay? Certain areas, yeah? Eh? Yeah, just a story. Right, so there's just one of the blocks on there you could see just clashes. Also this, if I tell you about clash detection a little bit, a lot of us think model coordination and clash detection ends when construction starts. You have to marry what you're doing at design phase with what's happening on site, right? So you can't just, here's a model, go build it. So you work with your main contractors, subbies, et cetera, sit in RFI meetings, deal with those issues on site, use your BIM model and that information to address the issues faster, et cetera. Okay. Right, and when your data is structured correctly, right, you can make tools, you can make use of BI tools. You guys know, like business visualization tools, like data tools, like Power BI, to visualize your data. I had a project in Cape Town. At first, we're dealing with issues and clashes on ACC. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's like line items after line items. At that time, we were sitting in a coordination meeting trying to go through like 2,000 issues, right? And then I introduced a Power BI dashboard, because at that time, you're dealing with engineers and project managers at a high level, and that really improved the way we communicated in the meeting and keep track of who was where and who's done what, et cetera. Okay, 2 minutes while I could get you. Okay, right? And there's just another example of, it's from a Navisworks model. I don't know if you guys still do Navisworks clash detection, right? Where we literally just highlight 2 models, get a report, and send that Excel file to people and expect them to know what to do with it. So we just grab that and then put it on Power BI with the model as well, and with the data from Navisworks and your Power BI thing, you can actually use coordination in a better way. Right, this is kind of systems that will help you with. Okay, 30 seconds. We also do have an automation team at Modena. Right, this one was quite interesting. And Zane showed me this yesterday. There was an issue, I don't know why it's not showing in form. Revit topo solids are rubbish to work with, to be honest. Right, so you guys know when you bring in a DWG as an architect, et cetera, you might find that it's got triangulation and stuff, right? And I know, Rich, I looked for a button for this, but there was no button on Revit. Right, and then Zane in our office put together a quick script. It didn't even take him too long, right? And just to clean up how Revit puts together a topo solid, right? That's just a dynamo player on Revit. He selected the contours, put in the density, and he's just gonna run it. And you'll see now that little area that he zooms into looks a little bit better than what Revit gives us, right? Okay, so support case came in. It took him like, Zane, I'm gonna make you look good. It took him like 15 minutes, put a script together, and send it back to the client. Okay. Yeah, and then lastly, okay, I like this one as well. This recently, we were appointed to do a scan on Garden Court, right, at the airport, okay? Right, our scanning team went out, and they did I want to say quick, took them one day to scan the facade of the hotel, right? And bring it into Revit, register, etc., right? And then, interestingly enough, for this specific project, the client had received drawings from council, but the drawings from council were inaccurate, okay? You see on there, the little line that I highlighted there, that's where the building line started for the specific building. But when we scanned, obviously we got more as-built and accurate information, right? And from there, that's what the guys produced. And it took Chris over here 7 days to get this facade modeled up from that point cloud. This was then handed over to the architect. 1 week later, they were then able to start designing their new facade from our reality capture stuff. Right? So it's just the correct way to use tools and putting it in the right place. You'll then be able to achieve your information properly. Chris, is the information in this model? Yeah, just check it. There's a lot of information. A window is a window with the right tag, etc., and then they can quantify it and stuff. Okay. Okay. Right. So, in closing, Africa's built environment is transforming. Okay. And the adoption of digital tools is about to revolutionize the way construction projects are managed across the continent, right? And obviously enhancing our productivity and efficiency, okay? And by implementing BIM effectively, firms can now streamline project workflows, reducing time and costs associated with construction, right? So let's just turn BIM concepts into reality for Africa. Thank you.